So we have a lot of borrowers, everyone who likes to attend at their convenience. As we all know, it's challenging being a small business owner. And so we definitely want to create that flexibility for everyone. I'm going to start today. My name is Natalie, and I oversee the small business lending team at SCED. Thank you for joining us today. We also have Sara Dwyer, who is also a small business owner, a recent startup. She'll share about herself. Sara? Can you say hello?
Thank you, Natalie. Yes, I spent 25 years actually working for a small locally owned Wichita manufacturer, and a year ago went out on my own so I can service small businesses with their human resources needs.
Great. Thank you, Sara. She's going to spend time with us today talking about really just the start of small business. But before we get into our HR topic, I just wanted to check in with everyone. Our organization provides really loans in three areas. We provide microloans, which many of you that are on the call have leveraged a microloan. That would be a loan that's $50,000 or less. We're seeing an increasing need within our market for mid-sized loans. That's anywhere between 50 and 300,000. The average need of a small business right now, I would say for about the past year, has been about that $225,000 range. SCED has recently brought in some new loan options. So we've really been able to increase our mid-sized loans significantly in the past couple of years. So certainly if you know anyone that's seeking a loan or is unable to get a loan, certainly have them connect with our team. And then the final bucket is the SBA 504 loan. And that's going to be for those individuals who are seeking to purchase commercial real estate. We have a lot of individuals who may actually own their own property right now, but are under a need to expand. So I'm seeing a lot of expansion need. Before we get started, I always like to just do a little housekeeping, kind of give you a feel for what I'm seeing. Right now, we are seeing continued strength in the economy. Earlier in the year, I presented a presentation on just kind of like general small business loan about the loan team. And in that, I discussed kind of a forecast for 2022, which was showing at that time no slowdown. Some of the things that have put me on a pause that I haven't experienced in the past 2 years is that construction costs are so high right now, they are causing some impediments. So construction costs are at an all-time high. Yes, they have been high the past year, but they're like nothing we've ever seen at the current time. And then also we see obviously interest rates rising. So whether it's yourself or others that you know that are small business owners, as interest rates are rising, now is a good time to contact me to consider refinancing or to consider what your options are, because our federal loan programs have mostly fixed interest rates. So that's kind of a little bit about what I'm seeing. We're always here to kind of give you a feel and share information. Today, we're bringing you this discussion through a technical assistance focus that we have on our small business lenders. Our program, as you all know, is a nonprofit lending institution. So we're really here for those individuals who are unable to gain a traditional loan. Through that, we're really focused on educating the entrepreneur. We provide services like Sara. I know some of you have attended our cybersecurity training that we taught recently. We have an attorney that will walk you through and educate you on what your commercial lease means. The attorney can also do kind of like a health check with you. You know how you're supposed to go see your doctor once a year? He will really just kind of sit down with you and kind of guide you on, okay, where are you in terms from a legal risk perspective? So our organization works really hard to make sure that you small businesses have all the resources that you need in order to be successful in operating your business. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you, Sara, and if you could just kind of talk more a little bit about yourself and then get straight into the PowerPoint, I think we'd all appreciate that. And
absolutely. Yeah.
This is really an informal discussion. So everyone, feel free to unmute yourself at whichever time, jump in and ask questions. And I've got a couple of questions for Sara too, just based off of all the things that I experience with each of you. So go ahead, Sara.
All right. Well, thank you, Natalie. Again, like I said, my name is Sara Dwyer, owner of On Call HR. And as I said, I spent 25 years working for a small family-owned manufacturing, 50 employees here in the Wichita area. We hired largely unskilled labor. And what I found is we were able to have an average retention rate of 11 years, hiring unskilled labor, competing against the larger employers in the city. And unfortunately, I can't tell you that there's a one size fits all approach, because there isn't, but hopefully I'm going to be able to give you some tidbits that you can take back and use in your own business. We know for sure that this war on talent is absolutely real. What I've learned is the Great Resignation lost 1.5 million people out of the workforce. That's a huge pool that's just gone, that have retired, that are just gone. Today, I learned that unemployment is at a 50-year low. So the war is real and the struggle is real. And I do understand the struggle, especially with a small business. But I know that you can compete, because the one thing that I see with small business, there's a thread that runs across every single small business. Doesn't matter your industry, but that common thread is people's ability to make an impact with your organization. When you're working with an organization, a large organization, it tends to be more anonymous. When you're working with a small business, you're not anonymous. You're out there, you're making a change. You can see your impact that you have. The boss can see the impact. As a business owner, you can see which employees are making an impact. And what I've found is people are either big employee workers or small employee workers. So what you really want to target yourself to is finding those people that want to work for small businesses. And they are definitely out there. I had a number of them that would tell me, I only want to work for small businesses. And I found that I loved small business as well, obviously. So what I would tell you to start with, the very, very basic thing to start with, is a job description. If you don't have a job description, you absolutely need a job description. That job description is going to help you figure out what your duties and responsibilities are and the essential functions of the job. You'll be able to take that job description and you can use it for multiple things. You can use it to place your job ads, performance reviews. Those are just two things that you can use. Today, we'll talk about how you can use that as for your job ad. So you'll formulate that job description, and that has, like I said, the essential functions, the real duties. We've all seen the job ads that have been posted that require the receptionist to have, an astrophysics degree. Is that really necessary? No. So look at what you really need, because when you start putting in these, what we call unicorn qualifiers, you're leaving out a whole subset of the population, because people are going to look at it and they're going to say, well, I don't have that. And they're going to go on. So make sure that you're having your real requirements. If you're hiring a front desk person, what are the real requirements? Post a salary range. People want to know what they're going to be paid. That's why they're coming to work. They're coming to work so they can fulfill that Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, safety, shelter. So with that, they're going to need a paycheck. So they need to know what you're going to pay. If you can pay, if they know what they need to make, is what I'm trying to say, not very well. So if you post that salary range, then they know if they can apply for you. Okay, it looks like it's going to be paying between this range, or, oh, I need a little bit more than that. But you want to do those things because you don't want to waste the applicant's time, and you don't want to waste your time either with going through a bunch of applications of people that you're never going to talk to because maybe they want too much or the qualifications aren't there. The 1 to 2 years of experience, I never agree with putting that in a job ad. And the reason why is because you are leaving out an entire subset of people by doing that. So you've got a workforce that's out there that looks at that and says, well, I've been in the workforce for 25 years, but they only want 1 to 2 years. So they go on by your job. So make sure that you've got those, put those things in salary range, take those things out, 1 to 2 years experience. If you want experience, just put experience preferred. That's all you have to say. And then you can look at that and see if they have what you're looking for, what you need. Be truthful in your job ad. True story. I had a friend that was going through a job search, and she applied for an accounting position, and she got to the interview, and it was for a receptionist. She's confused. What's going on? I thought I applied for this. And they said, well, you did, but we don't like to call it receptionist, so we call it something else. Well, of course, she was angry. Her time, rightfully so, her time had been wasted. The employer wasted their time because they weren't honest in what they were looking for. So be honest. You don't just want to get in applications, just get in applications and then have a bait and switch, because nobody likes a bait and switch. So be honest in what you're putting out there. Watch your job ads very carefully. If you're an equal opportunity employer, make sure you are an equal opportunity employer, and you should be. I've seen job ads. I kind of troll through them from time to time to see what's out there. And I've seen job ads that say must speak English. No. You've got to make sure that what you're doing is absolutely legal. So you watch those things there. So now you've placed that job ad, place it where your people will be, whatever your industry is. So if you're looking for unskilled labor, LinkedIn probably isn't going to be the best place for you. Find your applicants where they are. Maybe that's Indeed, maybe that's ZipRecruiter. Putting a sign in your window. Do you have any loyal, engaged employees? If your employees are happy, they're more than happy to tell their friends, their neighbors, their family about what a great employer you are. Offer some kind of bonus to people, a finder's fee, if you will, if your employees are bringing in a help for you, or they know somebody that applies and they stay a certain number of days. Think about those things. Be creative in what you're doing with your job ads. If you are able to hire, if you're like non-manufacturing and you're not using heavy equipment, and you can have 16 and up in there, you can always go to the local high schools. Talk to the guidance counselors there because they have kids that are looking for work programs and that are looking for jobs. So it's a way to think outside the box to do those things. So you've placed that job ad, you've had your job description, you've placed the job ad, and now the applications are coming in. What do you do now? Well, go through them and go through them regularly. I can't stress that enough. You can't take the application and go through it, put it in a pile, and I'll get to it in a couple of weeks because I'm really busy right now. Your priority is getting your people hired. So take some time every single day. You don't have to drop everything every time an application comes in or a resume comes in, but take some time at least once a day to go through those applications or resumes and set them up for interviews. Get a hold of people immediately. People are being scooped up so fast that you absolutely can't wait a week to 2 weeks. Even a couple of days can make a difference. So make sure you get those calls out immediately. And when you have somebody come in for an interview, be prepared. Look at the resume or the application before they've come in. That's the applicant's, their first impression is that job ad and what you're looking for. Their next first impression is when they see you for the first time face to face. Are you prepared? Did you care enough about them to look at their application or their resume before they walked in the door? Or are you just now pulling it out, saying, now, what was your name again? So you take a couple minutes. It only takes a minute or two to scan through that application, look at what their skills, their qualifications. There's a reason why you pulled it out to interview them. So take a look at that.
Sarah, I had a question.
Sure.
So you hear sometimes the term, it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, that term. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, is it still kind of an employee's market, or is it really the employee who has the leverage in the current market right now? Because it's kind of sounding like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it is absolutely right now. Yeah, that old, I think thing that, in my generation, how we grew up with is if the employer calls you, you just be lucky you have a job. And it's not that way anymore. It's very much when somebody shows up for an interview, you're interviewing each other now. It's not just the employer grilling the other person. And that's not an effective way to interview anyway. It's something I've never agreed with, but especially now is not the time to do that. Now, when that person comes in the door, you're now a salesperson as well, because you are selling your business, why your business is great, what you're passionate about. Why did you start this business? Let that passion for your business come through. Let the applicants see that. And maybe that will get them excited about what you do, because you want them to be excited about it too. Have conversations. Like I said, I don't agree with grilling. My mode of interviewing is just to talk about the business, what we do, what we made, and then lead into the person talking to them about, tell me a little bit about your job experience. Because you want to keep it that way, because you don't want to change that question to tell me a little bit about you. Because what automatically happens is we go personal with that. And you want to talk about maybe your kids, your family. We want to steer clear of that. Those are questions that we don't ask in interviews. So tell me a little bit about your job experience and let them talk to you a little bit about that. Question I always asked every single interview is, what are you looking for in a job? And you'd be amazed to see that the answers ran anything from, I need a paycheck, to, I want to retire here. I want to make this a career. So listen for those answers. I would also tell you, in this market, and really in any market, please don't have a convoluted hiring process. You're busy. You're trying to run your small business. The last thing that you should be doing is having a convoluted process where you have multiple interviews. Well, I need to talk to him again. And now I need to have my manager talk to him. And then I need to have this person talk to him. If you're not going to be their supervisor, have the manager or supervisor in the interview with you, and you can both talk to him at the same time. And that way, that manager that they'd be working for can see, is this person going to be a fit? Do they have the qualifications that I think they need? Do they have the experience that I think they need? And then you can just kill two birds with one stone right there. You can talk to the manager afterwards, and you can decide, do we want to hire this person, or do we need to, are they not going to be a good fit? But I would also encourage you to not always wait for, well, I think there might be somebody better. Because there might not. But that also doesn't mean that you should hire out of desperation and just hire anyone that comes along. Because if you hire out of desperation and, okay, they really don't have the skills, the qualifications, but they'll do because I really need to have somebody in here, what's going to happen to you is you are going to spend so much time on that one person and the issues they bring to the workplace. Are they toxic employee? Do they have attendance issues? Do they have, whatever their issue is, you will spend so much time with that. You would be better off just being patient, waiting for that applicant to come along that has most of the qualifications that you're looking for and hiring them. Because that's something else you're going to find is people aren't going to come into you with 100% of what you need. They might have 70 or 80% of it. Are you willing to train them? Are you willing to invest in that employee? If they have everything that you need, but maybe your organization, they need to know QuickBooks and they don't know QuickBooks, are you willing to take the time to help train them? And if you are willing to make those investments, people see that. And then that is also part of your culture and how people perceive you. So you've gone through this interview process, you've hired your people. I would say when you decide who you're going to hire, I always had people, they left my office with a welcome letter. And that welcome letter was welcoming them to the company, telling them what their date and time for their orientation was, what they need to bring with them. Because keep in mind, people are anxious when they come to work for the first day. We've all had first days at employers, and you know how nerve-wracking that is. If you have something written down on a piece of paper, they can look at it and they know exactly what they need to bring with them, and they know what's going to be expected of them. So always send them home with something like that. When they show up for that orientation on that first day, again, another time to make an impression. Are you prepared? Be prepared for them. If they have a desk If they're going to be working in an office environment, they're going to have a computer. Are those items set up for them? Or is there a bunch of junk piled up on the desk and there's no place for them to sit? Is their computer set up with their username and password? If you're in a manufacturing facility, do you have a trainer that's going to be able to work with them? In a restaurant, do you have maybe another wait staff that they can shadow? So things like that. Make sure you're thinking about things like that, because those are going through now. You're not your applicant, but now your new employee's mind, and they're seeing, are you interested in me? Do you care that I'm here or not? And they can see if you care that they're there or if you're just off doing something else. Do you have clear policies and procedures in place? That's important too. People should understand and they need to know the boundaries and the rules of the organization. What happens if they have a problem? Is there someone that they can talk to? Is there someone that's available for them? Will the manager listen to them? Are your managers trained on what to do if there's a problem? You as a business owner, are you trained? Do you know what to do if there's a problem? Story that I know of is a lady went in to her boss to complain she was being sexually harassed. And the manager got out his fingernail clippers and was clipping his nails while she was trying to tell him what was going on. That's a complete minimization of this lady and the issue that she was trying to bring. And it says an awful lot about what they thought about that complaint. That's also your culture and how you treat things and how you think. So think about things like that. And again, make sure you're investing in your employees. If you invest in them, they're going to give you something back. Now, what are your managers like? How do you run a business? Are you calm and collected, or do you prefer to be more volatile? Are you throwing things, having temper tantrums, or are you respectful and calm with your employees? Respect will yield respect. Volatility will yield high turnover. So if you have an employee or you have a manager or an employee that's behaving like that, make sure that you take action with that person, because one person can bring down an entire culture. If you have one toxic employee, that can bring down the whole culture. So your employees have to be a total fit. So you might have a salesperson who's just, their numbers are off the charts. But if nobody can work with them, if they're toxic, if they're a bully, then they have to be a total package. And what I always ask employers is, how many people are you willing to lose to keep one toxic employee? It's better to get rid of that toxic employee and keep the others. Flexibility with schedules is also something that I think we're looking at now in this new kind of post-COVID environment. So if you have that ability, that might be, something employees are interested in. Are you able to allow remote work or hybrid work arrangements? If you're at manufacturing or a restaurant where somebody has to be there part-time or they're making something for you, no, absolutely, you can't do remote, or, hybrid's not going to work. But what about part-time? Oftentimes I find people overlook part-time. I think we just kind of forget about it, and you really shouldn't. So part-time is definitely viable, especially when we have this great resignation. You might have people, and what's important to so many people now that they learned through COVID is it's important to maintain a work-life balance. And maybe that work-life balance is having part-time schedule, still be able to go in, work, but also have that flexibility to have some extra free time off. Think about cross-training employees. If you have, people that want to work part-time, and, how that could work. Can that work in your organization? So a lot of it's just about being creative with what you're doing in your organization. I would say, are you offering any benefits with your small business? If you aren't, offer them as soon as you can. If you offer nothing and don't anticipate offering anything, expect high turnover. You can expect a transient workforce. People are going to work, like I said earlier, for money, of course, because we all need to put a roof over our head and eat. but you also want some benefits, some work-life balance, some health insurance, some vacations, some sick leave. There's also, other kinds of benefits out there that don't always necessarily have to cost the employee or the employer a lot. One thing I'm hearing about now that's an up and coming that people really like is pet insurance. Who thought? But yeah, pet insurance. Look at maybe you have a workforce that wants to get healthier. So look at reduced cost gym memberships. There's discounts available for the zoo, Costco, Sam's, things to look at like that. There's a new company here in town called More Than a Meal. And what they do is kind of similar to a HelloFresh, but it's more of an employee benefit where you can have meals shipped to your employees' homes as a thank you or as a benefit. So there's some things like that. Also, mental health benefits are really important right now. I think as we came through COVID and we determined that, mental health was really important. And I think a lot of people had really neglected their mental health and they found out that they had during COVID. So mental health benefits right now are really important. And I would suggest for any small business to have an EAP. And at least that be a baseline for a small employer. So somebody's got those mental health benefits.
So Sarah, just quickly, I'd like to interject and just do a little bit of promotion. As you all may know, we do constant discussion points for our small businesses. And Sarah's really leaning into one of the next things that we're looking at. We will be hosting on May 31st, just a month from now, a discussion about how to get, like Sarah's suggesting, how to get to the point of assessing whether or not I can now offer benefits. So that will be kind of part one of two conversations we'll be having, kind of how to assess if I can get to the point of offering benefits. And then the next section will be kind of how to have that one-on-one conversation with those places that are offering small business benefits. So Sarah, thank you for leading us into that. I just thought
Absolutely.
I'd kind of quickly say that before you go on. So go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. And then, like Natalie said, so you're going to be determining, when you need those benefits, but what benefits? Talk to your employees. That is just the best place to start. Instead of saying, well, I think that we should have pet insurance, but nobody has a pet. It's not going to do you any good to have pet insurance. And you don't want to have the benefit just to say, well, I have the benefit, because you may be spending a little bit of money on this benefit. So just sit down and talk to your employees. And it's another way to show your culture that they value my opinion. My opinion is valued here. They're going to come ask me if that's something that I want. So, think about your benefits in that way too. And also think to yourself, how do you show your staff appreciation? Do you show appreciation, and how do you do it? I would leave you with a thought like this, which is ask yourself, would you work for you? Why or why not?
That's a heavy question for me. I don't know, but you got me to pause.
Right.
That's great. Though, Sarah, these are some really, really good talking points. I had a thought or a question as you were talking, which you kind of already touched on it, just the importance of accommodating now that hybrid work preference. And then also accommodating work parents, accommodating working parents. Although we're right now in a period where it seems as if the pandemic is somewhat under control, it is potentially where you're going to have flare-ups during the winter seasons. And so what thoughts or suggestions do you have on small businesses and type of culture that you can create to accommodate hybrid workplaces and those working parents?
I think the business owner needs to be transparent with people that, hey, we might have these periods where this is going to come up again. And what can we do for you? How can we still make this a cohesive work environment, but yet help each other out? How can I help you with your with your situation, how can you help me? How can we work together? And that, again, that's kind of part of the culture too, of getting to know your staff and getting to know your employees, because nobody wants to go anywhere where they're just a cog in a wheel. Get to know your employees a little bit. And I'm not saying that means, you're hanging out after work and you're best friends and all that, but know something about them. So that way, when maybe that flare up happens, that this employee has these 2 small children and he may need a different work schedule. And maybe that's even it. If maybe this is a married couple situation and one person's working one shift, maybe the other one can work a different shift for you or work some different hours. So it's be flexible. Be flexible is what I would say.
A lot of people come to me, and this may be another webinar discussion. It's a twofold question. How do we start with creating employee handbooks? Do I need an employee handbook? And are there any policies now in 2022 that we need to reconsider?
Well,
tough questions, I know. Sorry, Sarah. I can repeat those if you need.
That's all right. No, a handbook is a living document. And by a living document, those always need regular review to see if there's policies that need to be changed on them. They're not something that's just a one and done. Oh, hey, you did one 20 years ago. You're good now. Laws change, things change. So any of my employees would have always said, they would roll their eyes when I would say living document, because they were so tired of me saying it. But that is really what it is. It's a living document. And when should you have an employee handbook? As soon as you have an employee. You've got to have some rules on the books, so they know what's expected of them. What's your grievance policy? What's your non-harassment policy? What if now we've got 2 employees and this one's harassing me and I don't know what to do? So you definitely need to have some things like that out there. And those handbooks will also talk a little bit about what your vacation schedule is, how that accrues, if you offer sick leave, PTO, other things like that. But I always address things like non-harassment, workplace violence, EEO policies. If you're a federal contractor, there's other policies that you need to look at for that. But yeah, those need to be really pretty immediate.
Do we have questions from anyone that's on the call that has any questions they'd like to ask Sarah?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Devin.
And can you hear background noise?
I can, but I think we can work with you. Go ahead.
It's okay.
All right, I'll make it quick. Sorry, my office sits on the shop floor. In your experience, you've got 15 years of HR experience, with a small manufacturing firm, and that's kind of where I'm at as we're growing into manufacturing. I would, if you have just a few moments, what were you using as some other sources aside from Indeed to source your employees?
What we used, a lot of what I found worked very well, especially with that unskilled labor, which I'm assuming, are you unskilled labor as well?
I'd almost call it hybrid. Yes.
Okay.
My big is sewers.
All right.
Sewing machine.
Okay. We had a lot of success actually with temporaries. Bringing in temporary employees was a really good way for us to see how they were going to work, if they were going to work, and they knew immediately what the job was like and if it was something that they wanted to do. So we looked at temporary labor, would place job ads on Indeed. We had where I worked sat on a corner, so we went and got a huge now hiring sign in ugly ketchup and mustard colors, but they got people's attention. So you don't want to take just one approach, multiple things. And like I said, we would also pay referral bonuses if somebody had a friend or a family member that wanted to come work for us and they stayed with for a certain time period, 60, 90 days. You could pay something like that. The high schools we were able to look at that for the graduating classes that were about to turn 18, because with manufacturing, they needed to be at least 18 to be out there on the shop floor. So we did really a lot of different approaches, and you just see what works. And sometimes things work better than others. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I really like the idea about temp employees. I hadn't considered that yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure.
So Sarah, this is, well, everyone, this is really just an example of a continued conversation that we'll continue to leverage HR, on-call HR now going forward. So we wanted to at least start the conversation today with just some of the basics, like Sarah has gone over. Okay, we're going to post the role, we're going to do the interviewing, and then we're going to retain the employees. So we're really just giving you kind of an overview of some of the upcoming conversations that we'll be having. I encourage anyone that's watching this to please email me with ideas for other HR topics, or we can have Sarah back. If you have a microloan with SCED, you are more than welcome to coordinate through me. Sarah is available for you for one-on-one consultations, that it would be covered through funding that SCED has available. So Sarah can be available for you. We've already worked out the logistics on the back end with me. Until we kind of get the process ironed out, I'll be coordinating the time slots with her. I know I've already got one individual who has signed up and wants to work with her. So really, it's an open slate of how you want to work with Sarah. She's available for those one-on-one consultations. And then again, we'll bring her back for another presentation in the future as we learn of more topics. One of the things that you guys can all wish me well is if we can figure out how Sarah could potentially put together a training on an employee handbook. Maybe that's something that we can have her back and come out to do. So certainly send me those ideas, and then we can go from there. Sarah, any additional thoughts or comments?
I don't think so. Actually, I just thought of this after.
Go ahead. Yep.
From Devin. Something else to think about with your applicants is never stereotype them. So never assume that when you see that younger employee come or younger applicant come through the door that they're going to stay forever. And never assume if you have an older person come in for an interview that they're only there for a short time, because you just don't know. So look at just the qualifications, just what you're seeing there on paper. Because I really feel like what's happening, what I see a lot of is I think people that are 40 up are being marginalized in the workforce because people think, well, they don't really want to do much anymore. And that's really entirely not the case. So don't forget.
Very good advice. Well, everyone, certainly connect with me if you have small business lending needs, but of course, please remember we're here for you. If you have not refreshed your financial projections, now is the time to set up a call with myself and Tyler. We can pull market research reports. We can get you connected with Sarah for a one-on-one private consultation. Remember, we've got Foreman Law within your back pocket that you have access to. And next month, we'll be rolling out a conversation on how to get to the point of offering benefits, what that would look like. So I'm really excited for everyone to participate in that next month. So just email me directly and we'll get you connected with Sarah. So thank you, Sarah, so much for your time. And I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.